Dragon's Dogma 2 is almost upon us, and the game is looking absolutely incredible in a lot of different ways. But one conversation has sprung up surrounding Dragon's Dogma 2, and that is the uncapped frame rate across the board, including on consoles, where the frame rate will hover around 30 FPS, but it's not consistently 30 FPS, and will dip down to things like 24, maybe even 23 frames per second, or may go slightly over 30 frames, up to like say 31, but not too high from the footage that I've seen from IGN. And that's for the PS5 version. An uncapped, inconsistent frame rates, especially at these lower values, is extremely noticeable and pretty jarring, especially for action games. And from the sounds of it, it doesn't sound as if Dragon's Dogma 2 has a performance mode to prioritize the actual frame rate of the game, so you kinda get what you get here. And there's almost like another check in the column for PC gaming, especially in the modern day. I've always been a PC gamer throughout most of my life. That's mainly because I played a lot of MMORPGs, or RTS games, and stuff like that. But especially in the last few years or so, I've migrated more and more to just appreciating and desiring to be on PC as a platform instead of utilizing consoles. And there's a lot of arguments that spring up about, oh, PC gives you better performance and all that, and I don't think that's necessarily the only reason I've been preferring PC gaming, because my PC is really old. I'm only operating on an NVIDIA 1070, but I'm not gonna sit up here and bloviate and pretend that I'm going to somehow get a lot of performance out of Dragon's Dogma 2 on my machine. However, where I really have started to come to appreciate PC gaming, and why I would always recommend it over the console if you can get into it, is because, well, there's more freedom of choice on the PC platform. What do I mean by this? Well, you see, on console, most of the time, you are locked into whatever settings and build that the developers, the publisher, or whoever wants you to play at. And you have to hope that they decide to give you a performance mode that is up to snuff. You don't really get to tinker around with options to maximize or balance the game out to your personal preferences. That's not really a thing on console. For instance, when it comes to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, a game that I've been really enjoying lately, you get quality mode, which is higher resolution, but 30 frames per second, or performance mode, which is worse resolution, but somewhat consistent 60 FPS. However, most PC games across the board will give you a suite of options to tinker around with, and to, well, alter to your preferences to get the performance that you want for the graphical loss that you desire. Well, maybe not desire, but are willing to give up on. And that's the thing when it comes to Dragon's Dogma 2. If I play on console, I'm locked into whatever settings they have at the FPS values that the game will be able to put out on that console. My machine may not be on the stronger side of things, however, I can tinker with the options to try and maximize my FPS and consistent FPS, because that is what I prioritize when it comes to these games. That is my preference. And later down the line, when I eventually upgrade my PC, I can revisit the game and get even better performance and better resolution and just better visuals across the board for higher performance. I don't have to wait for the next console generation, you know? And then hope to God that there's backwards compatibility and that the older game will look better on the new console, because especially for PlayStation this generation, it's not always a guaranteed thing. I think what it really comes down to is I prefer to have the ball in my court instead of someone else's court, and to be told what I can run the game at and what the game should be ran at. It's not like I can like flick a wand and then all of a sudden 60 FPS, 4K gaming on my 8-year-old rig. It's not like that, right? But within the constraints that I have available to me, I can move that slider to my preference and to strike a balance that I personally prefer. Most of the time I can turn down things like shadows or anti-aliasing and be able to get some FPS out of that. Maybe I don't like depth of field, I can turn that down just for preferences and aesthetics. I like having these options available to me instead of not having them available at all. And some people prefer that old kind of plug and play, where you don't have to think about tinkering with anything. You just pop the disc in and play the game. However, that reality is starting to become a thing of the past when it comes to console gaming. And as consoles have progressively become just as essentially worse PCs, I think more and more eyes are being turned to the PC market. And options menus across the board, not necessarily all the time, but I tend to find more times on average than they used to be, are getting pretty decent in terms of customization available to you. And also all this new tech coming out that I'm not sure if it's in Dragon's Dogma 2, like FSR or DLSS and FrameGen and stuff like that. I don't know if that's available in Dragon's Dogma 2, but for a lot of other games, it allows my PC to kind of punch up from the hardware limitations and get even more performance than it otherwise would be able to. I imagine we'll start to see that tech come to consoles eventually, but it's already on PC, and I imagine it'll continue to get better on PC. And I think a dose of reality is important every now and then, because it's idealistic. I made a video a few days ago about this topic as well, how I think Dragon's Dogma 2 on consoles should have had a performance mode for lesser fidelity, but just to squeeze out more FPS, or at least a consistent 30 FPS mode, which I still wouldn't find that acceptable, but it's better than what we have right now, or that is being on offer right now. And we can ask for that and say this should be standardized across the board for console gaming at this point, especially in the year 2024 with these consoles. We can say that all we like. However, at the end of the day, you are still bound to what they want you to play at, or what they prioritize, not what you prioritize, which is largely a mindset that just doesn't mostly exist, at least in the PC side of things. So do you want to hedge your bets and be idealistic on a platform to where all you can pretty much do is cross your fingers and hope and pray that you'll get a mode that you personally like? Or would you rather play on a platform where you can just tinker the experience to what you like for what you got? Because another misnomer when it comes to PC gaming is that you have to have some kind of top-of-the-line rig to run all your games or something. You don't need a 4090. Those are cool, don't get me wrong, but you don't need it. And you can get a decently priced budget PC and run most games nowadays, and just tinker with the options a little bit to strike the balance that you personally prefer. If you want to squeeze out more visual fidelity because that is your personal preference, that is available to you, largely speaking. And if you want to sacrifice that visual appeal on the altar of getting more frame rate or more consistent frame rate, that is also generally available to you, the consumer. Like I said before and I've said multiple times, the ball is largely in your court there. And that to me is far more preferable and appealing than being at the whims and fancies of someone else, because they want the game to look good from a marketing perspective. Dragon's Dogma 2 looks like an amazing game, and I've been playing through Dragon's Dogma 1, and 2 just seems like if you took Dragon's Dogma 1 and gave me more of that, and that's what I would want out of a sequel. Take what already worked and do it better. That sense of adventure, give me more vocations/classes to work with. Continue the beauty of the pawn system and bring that forward, that sense of adventure in the open world. Naturally finding quests and these unique experiences around the world. That's the kind of stuff I love. And I would far rather be able to focus in on that side of things because I'm able to get the settings and the options in a way and sorted to my own preferences for the hardware constraints that I have for my rig, instead of whatever they choose for me to run it at. That's just my 2 cents. Because at the end of the day, we have to be realistic here. If 60 FPS minimum is a massive concern for you, as it is for me, it's more to your advantage to be on a platform to where you can tinker with the settings to try and prioritize what you prefer than being at the whims and fancies of another. And like I said before, we can sit here and talk about how there should have been a performance mode for the console versions all along, and I agree to that, and I hold to that position, but I'd rather not have to worry about that to begin with, because I'm already on a platform that has that essentially built in and customizable for my own preferences. That to me has been one of the strongest pulls for PC gaming lately. It's not perfect across the board, and some games are limited to 60 on PC for some godforsaken reason, but it's not limited to 30. And for a game like Dragon's Dogma 2, it's on PC, and it's uncapped. So that's personally why I'll play Dragon's Dogma 2 on PC, because I'll be able to customize it, and when down the line I eventually upgrade my PC, I can return to Dragon's Dogma 2 and have an even better time with it, and not have to wait for the next console to come out and then cross my fingers and hope and pray that they'll eventually boost the graphics and performance of the game I already bought, that I might have to buy another version for or an upgrade for. I don't have to worry about that on PC, and that's nice to know, and nice to have in my back pocket. And with that, I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in, my pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And leave a comment down below with your thoughts, your opinions on Dragon's Dogma 2 and its performance. What platform you're going to be playing on and why. Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and to hear your perspectives. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again.